Hello everyone, Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here for another Fly With Me. I am inside of X-Plane today. Let's fix the sound just a tiny bit here. I want to make sure that we're not overpowering you with wonderful sounds from this wonderful sim. Let's bring it down just to about 30%. I think that might be good, right? Alright, so today's flight we took off from ISP, which is Islip MacArthur Airport, or Long Island MacArthur Airport, and it is back there somewhere. We are climbing up to 5,500 feet. We are going to cross the Long Island Sound, and you really need to be at about 5,000, just about a mile up, to be able to make it to either side of the Long Island Sound should your engine go off exactly in the middle. Today's flight will be flying to none other than Hartford Brainerd. Now the reason I'm flying here is because I made that flight quite a number of times. For a quick cross-country flight, it was amazing. You got to fly across the Sound, so you got to see all the boats and all the pretty things going on down below. And you got to fly up through the Connecticut River Valley, I guess that's what you call it. Now, this is what Long Island looked like most summer days. It was incredibly, not overcast, but obscured sky, I guess you would call it. Always seemed to be hazy. And that was mostly because of the humidity picked up off of all the water. So it would be very hot and humid out. And I guess somewhat because of pollution, but it wasn't brown, it was usually just this haze. And I have added Orthophoto XP to the New York and Connecticut areas so you can get this great looking scenery. There's something about this particular sim that just gives me look at that. Look at the reflections off the water. It's just beautiful down there. Absolutely beautiful. Now my cat's trying to jump in the co-pilot seat again. She is, but if she knocks the stick again like that, I'm going to be very upset. Actually, the truth is, I flew this about 40 minutes ago, and I've been holding on to it, and I'm playing the replay right now, which is a feature built right into the sim. And you can see a little bit of turbulence as we go over the coast. And that is modeled pretty accurately. You'd always get a tiny bit of turbulence, but most of the time I'd get that would be when I'd be flying at 2,500 to 3,000 feet, either over the North Shore or South Shore. Let's see if I can figure out where I am as we cross this. From an islip, I should be, that looks like, yep, that's Rocky Point, Cedar Beach down below us, and that should be Port Jeff Harbor, and that is the wonderful cove. I spent so many, we used to call that the Pirate Cove, but what really was going on is up in this area was Belterre, and this in here, you couldn't get to it unless you walked along the outside of the harbor and then swam into it. We'd have parties in here and stuff, and get some guards or security guards in Belterre, which is a very rich community that would shoo you away, but it was just awesome in here. Of course, there's a ferry that goes from Port Jeff Harbor over to Bridgeport. So we're not over the center, but we're probably about a quarter of the way at this point. It's not a very long way across the Sound, but because we're going to be taking an oblique course or an angled course over the Sound, it's going to look like it's a little bit further than it is. In other words, we're going to be spending a little bit more time. So I'm sorry I haven't done more videos in the last couple of weeks, and for those of you that follow my Star Citizen channel, you probably have already heard me do that in my latest Star Citizen video. But it's about a year and 2 months ago, so April of 2016, I had surgery on my throat. 2 weeks later, I'm back at work, and my wonderfully amazing boss is excited to see me. And not my boss's boss, but their boss is excited to see me at one of his events, and he gives me one of those shoulder bump hugs. And his shoulder goes right into the surgical scar, the surgical area, which is still healing. It's only 2 weeks. I got a perforated larynx, perforated trachea right by my larynx that day. And ever since then, I've had one surgery, I've had multiple voice trainings, but ever since then, every few months, and like I said, those of you that have been listening to my Star Citizen channel, you know this. Every few months, my voice is so gravelly and so broken that it's very hard to get through one of these episodes. So I didn't do one for a couple of weeks. But over those couple of weeks, I've done a ton of flying, both inside of here, X-Plane, and inside of Flight Sim World. And although I know Flight Sim World is going to be fun for people that aren't 100% over the top for flight simulation, I just, being that it's that older engine, I don't feel it yet. Though I do like the missions, I love the missions, and I do like the way the aircraft look. They just don't handle very realistically yet. Look at that reflection on the window right there. Look at it as it goes through. Look how amazing these aircraft look. I mean, look at it. Just incredible. Right there, reflection off the tail, the empennage. Just awesome. So I've been really spending a lot of time in here. So much so that I've purchased a couple of aircraft. Now, I just did this video on Star Citizen about purchasing spaceships. Now, for those of you that don't know what Star Citizen is, it's an amazingly realistic and immersive virtual world that Chris Roberts, the maker of Wing Commander, is now building. Star Citizen is an alpha. It probably won't be out for about another 2 years. It'll probably spend a lot of time in alpha, a little bit more time in beta, and then come out. And inevitably, it's going to be a giant sandbox for you to fly around in the most realistic spaceships made to date, but that still have some kind of fantasy control, so they're fun to fly. And the ships in that game generally go between $30 and $2,500. And I'm going to pull this back in, believe me, sometimes I get off on a tangent, but in this game, some of the aircraft are expensive, $100 or so, $150 for study level, accurately simulated airliners, like A300s, A380s, 787s. I mean, they could be expensive. The scenery files could be, well, not expensive. I mean, they're $29, $39, $49 for packages. And study level GA aircraft are somewhere between $39 and $69. But you could also buy environmental effects like clouds. I'm looking at X-Enviro, and depending on what my donations or Patreon levels are this month, I'll probably get that next month. And that adds in a whole bunch of environmental effects that are a lot more accurate than what's in the sim right now, which makes this a very amazing sim. But this will probably be one of the last times for a few months that I'm flying in the stock Cessna 172, which I find is amazingly accurate, or I should say accurately modeled. Looks like we're still moving, aren't we? I think we're still moving. We're still moving. Yes, we are. Oh, so I have that bug where the instruments are not telling you what's actually going on in the sim. And that's part of the replay. So please forgive me on that one. I'm so sorry about that. That will not be updating in this game for some strange reason. Alright, so back to what I was saying. So I have bought Airfoil Labs Cessna 172. And I am going to take that aircraft and start flying realistically modeled, accurately modeled aerodynamics and accurately modeled engine wear and airframe wear. I'm going to start flying that aircraft, and I'm going to start doing some FS economy runs. I'll tell you what FS economy is. If I slurp, I am so sorry. To get through here, I have to drink my tea. So the Airfoil Lab Cessna 172 seems to be getting a lot of good press. Okay, so I'm finding that it is going to be one of those aircraft that I'm probably going to play for a while. Now, the second aircraft I bought was only because I saw either John Fly or Cat Strader flying it. I think it was Cat Strader. And it was the Dash 8 Q800. I think that's it. Let me take a look at my xplane.org account, and that way I can tell you accurately which one it is. Let's see, it was here, it was $20, it was on sale, and it is the Q400, Dash 8 Q400. And the reason I bought it is because I was in that position. Oh, there's New Haven down there. Yes, I'm ADD. There's New Haven. Alright, so I was in the middle of my gravelly voice and really upset. So I'm watching Cat Strader play and pretty much go out and fly around in this aircraft. And this aircraft, the Q400, in other words, the Dash 8, was one of the last planes that I had flown on, and it was during my surgery that I had back in April of 2016. And I flew on it from Seattle to Portland, where I had my surgery. And wow, that, even though it is not created for X-Plane 11, the maker of that aircraft, which I don't know, it's by FlyJSim, the maker of that aircraft, even though that's an older design and he's definitely going to be updating it. We must be going over the coast again, getting close, we just had a little bit of jiggle. That aircraft is beautiful, but it's not something I'm going to fly here until I start working on my I need to work a little bit more on my IFR. Now, I'm not IFR rated in real life, but I was very close to being IFR rated. So I want to get back into doing that, and that way, when I start flying in the bigger jets, I'm actually flying more accurately for you. Or maybe at some point I'll break down and just take you through some of the training and getting reacquainted with IFR flying I'll be doing in the Sims. But here we are coming over New Haven. New Haven is another one of those runs I made many times. New Haven isn't where I would go for the burger. It would be Bridgeport, which is over in that direction. I think Bridgeport would be down over there. Sikorsky. Igor Sikorsky. Definitely one of the most amazing people in American aviation history. The developer of one of the first working helicopters. I know that there's a lot of people that say this person got the first one and that person got the first one. Let's just say one of the first, even though that's still disputed. But Igor Sikorsky, awesome. And the funny thing is, my ex's grandfather, who was Russian, was actually friends with him. He had pictures of him and Igor standing next to each other in front of one of his early designs of a helicopter. I found that to be very interesting. Orthophoto, the people that put that together are just amazing. 4XP overlays and just the map areas, just they bring this game to life in a way that it's like, how do you not want to just be in this? I remember, and this is a very long time ago, I was in my late teens and the Amiga 500 was just released. I had an Amiga 1000 at the time, but the Amiga 500 was a little bit upgraded in that it was a little bit cheaper. It was an all-in-one, kind of like a Mac without a screen. You still had to buy a screen for it. So it was a keyboard that had everything built into it. But the first game I bought for that, when I bought the unit, I remember walking into the store where they had it. And it was in the Sunrise Mall? I don't know, it was on Betts Highway just south of ISP. I remember walking in there and buying it and buying Flight Simulator. I had to have Flight Simulator. Yes, Sublogic's Flight Simulator was made for the Amiga. It was made for many platforms. In fact, I think the first place I flew it was on the Trash 80. I got home, and I had played it on a couple of the PCs that my friends had. And it was in this 8-bit, 16-bit color, whatever it was. But when I played it on the Amiga, although the frame rate and everything wasn't this good, it was just amazing. It set itself apart from Flight Simulator on some of the other platforms at the time. Now, of course, the Amiga didn't last, and graphics started to beat it out, and the AGA versions of the Amiga never made it out. But it was a good memory, and I remember just, I was going for my pilot's license at the time, and I would just practice all the time, even though it didn't have an accurate flight model. But it was enough to learn the instruments and learn how to fly. But today, with the accuracy of even this, which is a stock plane, and with the amazingly modeled photorealistic scenery, I mean, it's not just about learning the instruments, it's actually flying. You could pick landmarks that you would see in real life and see them on the ground with this photorealistic scenery. I mean, the way that this is done, I think you could actually go and pick out your house and fly over it. I'm not sure if that's what you can do, but I think you can. Definitely the roads are much more accurate, and the placement of major landmarks is. So this is what I'm saying. This is one of the things I use. I would just be in awe of when I would fly north of Long Island, was just how these rolling hills just started to grow out of nowhere. And of course, in that direction, they become the Berkshires. Go a little bit further north from where we are now, they become the mountains, in the Green Mountains in Vermont. But I was just amazed with how beautiful this area was. And flying over Long Island is beautiful, but it's flat. But you get to see the great shorelines, the beaches, the vineyards over the North Fork. But when you'd fly this direction, you had all this wonderful scenery to see. Down here in Georgia, I haven't flown much. People asked where I fly out of. I fly out of McCollum, RYY. And I've flown north to Cleveland, Tennessee. I've flown north to Rome, Georgia. And yes, it is pretty. The mountains are gorgeous. There's just something about flying around coastlines that I find amazing. I love being East Coast born. And again, if I slurp, I'm sorry. But to do this video, I definitely have to drink my tea. But I'm just a beach girl. I really, really, really need to be near a beach. And I'm living in Atlanta, and there is no beach around here. So the 17 plus years I've been here, 18 years, 19 years, whatever it is, I've just been crawling out of my skin. So I have this need, this obsession, that every time I go to California, because I work for Apple, and they'll ship us out there every now and then, I've got to go down to the water and I got to step in it. I've got to put my feet in an ocean. I've got to put my feet in the Gulf. Wherever I am, I have to find my way to the water. And I have been successful in doing that so many times. So going back and tying this all into my voice again, we go out to Portland. I have my surgery on April 3rd or 4th. And by that following Friday, when I'm actually able to go places, my best friend who actually made the flight with me and took care of me while I was there, I had to be there for 9 days, rented a car and drove me from Portland all the way out to the coast where Haystack Island was. And this is middle of April. I have never put my feet in colder water in my life, but I've never felt better. That area was beautiful. And maybe one day I'll do a flight over there as I start getting much more used to flying in Flight Simulator and, well, not Flight Simulator, in X-Plane again. It looks like I am, but I'm getting used to it. So this is going to be a straight-in approach to runway 020 over at HFD, which is Hartford Brainerd. Let's see if we have anything over here. Yeah, our instruments have started to work at least. We're holding at 2,500 feet. You're not seeing the GPS data that I see. It still has us, there it is, there's HFD right there. You can see it. Very close to it, according to that, but that's because we're sitting on the tarmac. Alright, so it's actually giving us what the GPS is showing right now, where the aircraft is, instead of in this replay. Now I was going to fly this over again, but I decided not to. I decided to just let me do it inside of the replay, so if I needed to stop for a few minutes to take a sip of tea, I could do it, and I could still deliver one of those great videos. Look at this area, it's just awesome. And there's the Connecticut River, right there. So what we're doing is we're flying, you can see, we're flying towards the river, and Hartford's airport is going to be right along the river. Now, I should have flown this with no clouds, so you would actually see, or no obscurity, so you'd be able to see how beautiful it is. But I figured, why would I do that? Getting a little bit of turbulence as we're hitting the mountains. Ooh, I never checked to see if I was flying over this little mountains. It's not like the Alps, but it's, for the Connecticut area, it's a mountain. Yeah, here in Atlanta, they call Kennesaw Mountain a mountain. And it does rise up above the horizon, yes. But go out to California once, and that ain't no mountain. But it's still beautiful. At least Kennesaw Mountain here has some history to it. The Battle of Kennesaw Mountain, of course, in the Civil War. Look at that. That must be some kind of strip line down there. Ruining the beauty of the landscape. Let's go in. Maybe they're getting some shale oil. Maybe they're getting some granite. I don't know. Some kind of strip mine destroying the beauty of the land. But keeping America self-sufficient, I guess? I don't know. Make it sound good. Maybe it's a ski area. No, that wouldn't be a ski area. Not big enough. Right, at this point, I'm getting close enough to the airport where I probably was just about... No, I'm still a little high. And I do misjudge my descent on this one, and I do come in a little high. I should have been right around pattern altitude when I was entering the airport space, and I was still at 2,500 feet. So I had 2,486 or 82 feet to lose in the course of 5 miles. No, I was probably at about just over 2,000 feet because I wasn't coming in that fast. I wasn't coming in more than 700 feet per minute. And I am not going to take away the beauty of flying in places like Florida, or a place like Seattle, or a place like Wyoming. And I would love to do all of that here in Flight Simulator. Okay, there you hear me reduce I just reduced down to about 15. Yeah, it's still at 19. So I'm going to be losing that last bit of altitude. Obviously, I am descending. Descending at about 500 feet per minute. Like I said, just following the river. And normally when I flew this, when I've made this trip many times on VFR, I would fly north until I found the river. And I would have my visual landmarks set up, of course. And as soon as I found the river, I would just fly up the river and fly right towards the airport, which is in this area over here. You're going to see it coming into our scene in just a few minutes. See it over there? It's the airport right there. Alright. Pretty nice. Really do love this scenery. If you do get X-Plane, I highly recommend you watching some of the videos on how to install Orthophoto 4XP or Ortho 4XP, whatever they call it. It makes this sim. It takes this sim from being awe-inspiring to being breathtaking. I mean, it is just amazing. And I would have to say this is probably accurately modeled. And I like the way that this looks a lot better than the autogen scenery because it looks realistic. It's just gorgeous. And I started this last night, and this was just going to be a test run for me to see how well this worked. Now I have done all of the ortho, well, I've installed the orthophoto in my X-Plane install for all of the Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and most of northern Florida and southern.
Romeo 2100 Zulu weather. Wind calm,
Southern
visibility
Tennessee.
more than 10. Sky conditions 20,000 scattered.
This is where I'm finding out. Just about 10 miles
temperature
out right now.
14, dew point -10. Altimeter 2992.
Of course, because
arriving
we don't have
runway
realistic weather
02,
on there.
departing runway 02.
That's where I found out the runway.
Advise on initial contact you have Romeo.
So the minute I found out that it was runway 02, I just decided to do a straight-in approach like so many times before flying into Hartford. Now Hartford Bradley is up in that direction over there, and that is
Hartford
their major
Brainerd
regional
information
airport.
Romeo 2100 Zulu weather. Wind calm,
Let's see where we
visibility
are in
more than
altitude
10.
right now. We're
Sky
dropping
conditions
altitude pretty quickly.
20,000 scattered, 35,000 scattered,
And
temperature 14,
Sophie Cat
dew
over
point
here is
-10.
looking for attention.
Altimeter 2992. Arriving runway 02, departing runway 02. Advise on
And there I am. You can see in this area, you can see I just switched to 119.6, which is the tower frequency. I'm going through the motions. One thing I don't like about the ATC in this sim is it doesn't give you VFR options. Everything is file a flight plan. And I would really have filed a flight plan and talked to clearance delivery about this and asked for clearance to HFD. VFR, given in my altitude, I flew at 5,500 feet, which is probably absolutely wrong, but that's what I did. All I know is that on one of these trips, it was going to be 65, one of the legs, probably going back, was going to be 6,500 feet because, we're going in a different direction. So the cat's being annoying. So I'm dropping flaps. Now, I did not see airspeed accurately updated, but now it seems to be, so we can watch the instruments and see. You got yourself stuck in my chair, girl. Cat is just being annoying. Alright, so let's see. Now remember, pitch doesn't control your altitude. Airspeed is controlled by your pitch. Okay, so once you set your trim, you can control your altitude or rate of descent by adding or removing power. That's something that, there it is. That's why I had to drop to 1,000 feet a minute. Oh God, that was crazy. But we're going to try to keep it between 65 and 75 knots. And I believe we have 30 degrees of flaps. We just added the last flaps. Alright, now I've seen this landing from inside the aircraft. Now I haven't installed one of the best add-ons for the game yet, which is, I think it's X-Camera. And that is something I'm going to be doing in the very near future. That way I could get better videos for you. Alright, so we are going to stop it. We are going to look for a good, I think this right here, I don't like that shimmer. The reflections and the shadows are overpowering. How close did we get to these trees? Oh god. These trees are just auto-genned a little bit close. And here we are coming over the threshold, right? Just about. Chucking back the throttle. And starting our flare. Starting our flare. Starting our flare. And flaring it. And that was a great landing. Now I hope I do as well, and of course I clean up the aircraft immediately. I hope I do as well inside the Airfoil Labs Cessna as I start to use it later on today. Can't wait for that. It's going to take a while. You got to work with checklists. You got to work with doing your pre-flights. So it's going to be realistic flights in that. And when I do those, I'll probably do something like this where I'll just take highlights from it or portions of a leg and talk to you all. And usually that will be leading into a landing, because I think the thing that makes you feel best as a pilot is squeaking a landing. It's just nailing. And if I could just do like the legs that have either some kind of major weather going on or some kind of incident, or just do the last leg of any flight I fly and talk to you all about it, you could get an idea. Now this, obviously, is going to be a little bit different here. Scenery looks amazing from far away, but up close, of course, it's going to be pixelated. And I'm going to try to move this thing up and shut it down, and then I'll end it for you all. Alright guys, I am going to be most likely doing another video this week, and doing a short one with my impressions of the Airfoil Labs Cessna 172, give you some highlight video and talk about the things that I found that made it much more fun, and I'm sure it will be more fun, because anything that's accurate, to me, is pretty impressive. I think that's all I have for you now. So with that said, you all be safe out there, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.